G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. As you can see, it's a grey old misty Sydney day. It's the last day of spring, so I hope summer brings some sunshine and some clear skies, because it's been wet all of spring. Anyway, I've had an early finish to the afternoon. I got rained off work and I've come down to the city, got off the train here at Circular Quay, and interestingly enough, today I've got a dental appointment at 4 o'clock, so I've got half an hour to spare. So what I thought I'd do is just invest in another Jim's 5am Club and take the opportunity to share another book summary with my wonderful family and friends, so that we can learn something new based on OPE, other people's experience. I'll just walk down to the end of the jetty and we'll kick off the book summary. Today's book summary is entitled Selling 101 by a famous presenter, a famous author named Zig Zigler. I remember many years ago being invited by my cousin Kostas Kathretakis to go to an event. I think it was in some big convention hall. I forget where it was. It could have been at Homebush. I'm not quite sure, but there were lots and lots of people at this convention. It was a convention celebrating, I think, an annual sales conference for a pyramid selling company, and the guest speaker back then was Zig Zigler. And I remember hearing him talk, and he was just such a powerful individual, an absolutely fantastic presenter, who talked from a motivational perspective about the importance of selling and some of the selling techniques. And I remember being very impressed by the content of his presentation and his energy style. His energy is just the amount of energy. And I remember him saying back then that money isn't important. Money isn't the most important thing in the world, but it's second only to oxygen. I'll never forget him saying that, and how impressed I was at just being part of the audience and feeling his amazing energy. So let's dig into this book summary and see what we can glean from it. And sales is an important part of our lives, and sooner or later we are all involved in sales, because according to Zig Zigler and all the experts, selling is all about persuading. But it wasn't until I worked at IBM that I learnt that selling isn't all about talking. It isn't all about the blah blah blah, and it's got more to do with active listening. And Zig Zigler will tell us a little bit more about some of the skills that we need to develop in order to be the best possible salesperson that we can be. He kicks off his book summary, or his book, with a quote where he says, "You don't persuade by telling, but you persuade by asking. The key to being a great salesperson is to be able to ask questions, open-ended questions, which you can target, and you can narrow the questioning and guide your prospect towards where you want them to be." In the book here, Zig Zigler reminds us that Jesus, when he was asked questions, he always responded with a question or a parable. a story, because both are effective tools of persuasion, and we need to learn to become good at questioning, and we all need to be good at storytelling. They're two very, very important skills that we need in order to master the ability of becoming a super salesperson. Zig Ziglar is an old style, old school sort of person, and he said that integrity is key. If you want to be an awesome salesperson, if you want to be an awesome contributor to society, you basically need to live with integrity. Because when you live with integrity, you have nothing to fear, because you've got nothing to hide. You know, if you speak the truth all the time, if you're open and honest, then you've got nothing to hide and you've got nothing to fear. Zig also goes on to say that the more you know about your customer, or the more you know about your client, the more you know about your subject, the better off you are at being able to serve those needs of your customer, your client, because you're then able to match the product and the solutions to their particular needs. So being customer focused, being interested in learning what their problems are, what makes them tick, how their organisation is structured, who's who in the organisation, are very, very critical to generating the right knowledge so that you can serve. Because selling, being an awesome salesperson, according to Zig Ziglar, is about being a servant to others, a person who loves receiving and dealing with problems, and of course solving problems. And as we said, solving problems is the ability to be able to match solutions, products, services to people's needs. So you need to understand your product really, really well. You need to understand your client really well, and it's a matching exercise. It's a little bit like a dating service where you identify what people need and you be the person to fill those needs. So the author here then goes on to say something really interesting. I remember well when I went to this sales event where Zig Ziglar was talking. You know, he spoke with such energy and he spoke relatively quickly. And he said that most people like to listen at the same speed that they speak. So whenever possible, adjust your speech pattern to conform to those of your prospect. So people will give you clues in terms of their thinking speed by the speed that they speak. So obviously you need to adjust and speak quickly to those who speak quickly, because chances are that they listen quickly as well. And if you're not linked in, or if you're not delivering at the same pattern that they receive, then you may lose them. They may get bored with what you're saying. So it's important to listen first, because by listening to people speaking, you're able to then tap into the speed that they speak and at the speed at what they think, and then you're able to connect much better with them, according to Zig Ziglar. So the next point that comes out of this book that Zig presents us with is that procrastination is the #1 indication that a problem is developing. So when people procrastinate, when people can't make decisions, when people can't act, it's a surefire way, it's a clue indicating that a problem in that person's life, in that person's business, in the person's relationships are starting to generate and develop. So once you understand and once you identify that a problem is brewing, then you can be in a position to proactively look at ways of serving that client and figuring out what you can do in order to solve those problems and to serve their needs. Because sales is all about serving. It's not about taking, it's not about making money. It's about solving and serving people's needs, and the people who are best positioned to do that and who actively welcome the opportunity are the ones who end up making the most bonuses. So then the author says something else which is really interesting as well. And I haven't heard very many people talk about this because it is politically sensitive. But the author goes on to say that if you want to be mentally sharp, you need to be physically sharp. So let's say that again. If you want to be mentally sharp, you need to be physically sharp. So what we're saying is that you need to be fit. You need to exercise, you need to eat well, you need to sleep well. You need to be at your strongest, at your best, in order to be mentally at your sharpest. So, drinking too much or indulging in, substance abuse and staying out and partying for days at a time, yes, there's probably a time and a place for some of that, not all of that. I don't condone drugs, and of course, getting too pissed isn't something to be proud of either. But we need to be fit, we need to be at our best physically in order to be at our best mentally. And when we're at our best mentally, then we're at our best to be able to solve and to work with people to figure out what their challenges are. As a salesperson, you learn very early on that you need to welcome, you need to embrace, and you need to live with constant objections, because it's a normal part of sales life. There's nothing wrong with people challenging you, with people taking you on and objecting to some of the things that you're saying or doing. Your job is to figure out why they're objecting or why they have an issue with it, and work around it, work under it, work through it. Work out a way of solving that issue. Anyway, so a wonderful book, a wonderful presenter. I think he has since passed away, like many of the greats. But one of the things that I really love is that I did get an opportunity in those heady 80s when I was working for IBM, when I was working for Telstra, Optus, and I was working for some of those best organisations in the world, that I did get to live, and I did get to be part of an audience of some of these leading speakers, these motivational speakers, these leading thinkers, these people who actually shaped the world of sales, of motivational speaking, and of positive thinking. So I've been there, I've done that, and I'm really, really happy to have been part of it. So I thank my cousin Costa Katharaptakis for inviting me to that event. I remember him going up on stage and getting his awards, and him actually saying that he wanted one day to be a diamond performer. He's done very well. He's married well. He's got a beautiful family. He spent a number of years in Dubai and he did very, very well for himself. So all of that training that Costa did along the way has paid dividends for him. Because I remember back then he was reading some interesting books, he was listening to some interesting tapes, he was hanging out with some interesting people. And as we said, all of that was an investment in his future. And the organisation that I was referring to was Amway. I'd forgotten the name, I'd forgotten what it was all about. I never got involved with Amway for various reasons. But you know, for those who got involved, who did the hard yards, they learnt a lot which helped them in other fields, in other areas of their lives. So I think I'll leave it there. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode from Jim's 5am Club. As you can see, it's an overcast, it's a misty, rainy sort of day. It looked like it was going to clear up, but it'll continue to drizzle for a little bit longer. So take care everybody. Yasas from this wonderful location, this public space down here at Circular Quay, and we'll chat again. Take care. Yasas, and bye for now.